Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping back in time to explore one of history's most explosive eras of change. Seriously, this period completely reshaped how we see the world and even ourselves. We're talking about the Renaissance.
So to really get a grip on this whole period, let's start with a big question. Just imagine, what happens when an entire continent kind of wakes up from a long sleep? I mean, picture a society that's been following the same rules for centuries, and then bam, they rediscover this lost world of knowledge. What happens next?
Well, the answer to that question starts with one single word: Renaissance. And it literally means rebirth. And that's exactly what it was. It was this incredible flowering of art and culture and science, and all of it was fueled by rediscovering the amazing achievements of ancient Greece and Rome.
Okay, so this rebirth, it didn't just pop up everywhere at once. No, it had a very specific starting point. So why Italy? What made it so special? Let's dig in.
Okay, so take a look here. The stage was set in the city-states of Italy. Now, you gotta remember, Italy wasn't a single country back then. It was more like this patchwork of super wealthy, really competitive, and fiercely independent territories. You're talking Florence, Venice, Rome, and all this constant competition, this trying to one-up each other. It created this perfect, fertile ground for new ideas to just take off. And that environment? It was basically the perfect incubator. I mean, just imagine walking through the streets and seeing the ruins of ancient Rome everywhere, a constant reminder of this glorious past, right? Plus, the Italian language itself has roots in Latin, which made it way easier to read all those ancient texts. Then, you add in these wealthy rulers, patrons who were just dying to show off their power by funding art, and a flood of Greek scholars who fled to Italy bringing all this lost knowledge. And boom, the stage was set for a massive cultural explosion.
And the most visible sign of this rebirth, and, probably the most beautiful one too, was a total revolution in art. It was a completely new way of seeing the world.
And hey, you don't have to just take my word for it. The art absolutely speaks for itself. Just look at this. On the left, you've got a typical medieval painting. See how it's kind of solemn, flat, more symbolic? Now look at the right. Botticelli's Birth of Venus. It's dynamic. It has a real sense of depth. It feels alive. The shift is just staggering, isn't it? So this really breaks down that fundamental shift. What was different? Well, Renaissance artists got obsessed with perspective to create depth. They studied human anatomy to make their figures look real. And they didn't just paint religious stuff. They explored secular subjects too. And here's a big one: they mastered using slow-drying oil paints. This was a game changer because it allowed for a level of detail that was just impossible before.
So all this amazing art, this explosion of creativity, it didn't just happen out of nowhere. It was fueled by a really powerful relationship, the connection between the artistic genius and the wealthy patrons who paid the bills.
And right at the heart of this whole system was Lorenzo de' Medici, a guy they called the Magnificent. And for good reason. His family's banking fortune basically let him rule Florence. But more importantly, it let him fund the greatest artists of his time, giving them the freedom to just create masterpieces.
Now, he sponsored a ton of incredible artists, but his most famous discovery? Well, it was a young sculptor and painter who would completely redefine what was even possible in art. His name? Michelangelo.
So after his patron, Lorenzo, died, Michelangelo moved to Rome, and he carved this, the Pietà. I mean, just look at it. Look at the delicate folds of the fabric, the deep, deep sorrow on Mary's face. This isn't just a block of marble, you guys. This is pure emotion, literally frozen in stone. Then he went back to Florence, and he was commissioned to create a symbol for the city. And what he made was David, this towering symbol of human perfection and strength. And get this, he carved it from a single block of marble that other artists had actually rejected because they thought it was flawed. And just to give you a sense of the sheer ambition here, David stands over 5 meters tall. That's about 17 feet. It's just a monumental achievement, not just of art, but of engineering too. But his ultimate challenge, his biggest commission, came from Pope Julius II. And the job? To paint the entire ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. For 4 grueling years, Michelangelo was up on scaffolding, lying on his back, creating what is hands down one of the greatest works of art in human history. All right, so this incredible rebirth of ideas, it was just too big to stay in Italy. It wasn't long before it spread right over the Alps and into Northern Europe. And up in Germany, you had this guy, Albrecht Dürer. He took those new Italian techniques and blended them with his own Northern style. His eye for nature was just incredible. I mean, look at the stunning realism of the hair.
and he also became a master of the super detailed art of engraving. Meanwhile, over in England, the Renaissance found its voice on the stage. We're talking about William Shakespeare, of course. He explored the deepest parts of what it means to be human in his plays that are still performed and studied all over the world today.
But that begs a question, right? How did all these ideas in art, in literature, spread so far, so fast? The answer isn't a person. It's a piece of technology, the ultimate game changer.
And here it is. The invention that changed everything was the movable type printing press. Now, you have to understand, before this, every single book had to be copied by hand. It was a slow, incredibly expensive process, and it meant that knowledge was really only in the hands of a tiny, tiny elite. So this guy, Johannes Gutenberg, invents it around 1450. And the process was pretty simple, but totally revolutionary. You'd arrange these individual metal letters to form a page, you'd roll ink on them, and then press a sheet of paper down. And you could do that hundreds, even thousands of times. And the impact? Oh, it was profound. For the very first time, books were cheap and they were accessible. This led to a huge jump in literacy. More people could read. And new ideas, like the ones that sparked the Protestant Reformation, they could spread across the continent like wildfire. I mean, think about it. It was basically the internet of its day. Knowledge was finally democratized.
And all this new access to information, it totally fueled a scientific revolution. Now thinkers like Copernicus could publish his wild idea that the Earth actually revolves around the sun. Galileo could use his new telescope to challenge everything people thought they knew about the heavens. The key was that they and so many others could now read, build on, and even argue with each other's work. It just massively accelerated the pace of discovery.
So, when you look back, the Renaissance really shows us that a single idea, when it's amplified by the right technology, can literally remake the world. And that leaves us with a pretty big thought, doesn't it? If one invention could spread knowledge and challenge centuries of belief, what single innovation today holds that same power?